Hey everybody, this is Jesse P. Gilmore, Agency Transformation Coach and founder of Niche in Control, author of The Agency Owner's Guide to Freedom, and the creator of Leverage for Growth. I'm the host of the Leverage for Growth podcast, and I know that in order for you to scale your agency successfully, there are multiple shifts that need to happen within your mindset, skill set, and leadership style. I am on a mission to interview marketing and PR agency owners on their journey to 6, 7, and 8 figures and leverage the lessons from their journey to save you time, energy, and money to get your agency to the next level. If you find value in these episodes, watch the case study video to learn more about Leverage for Growth and how we successfully scale agencies at nicheincontrol.com/case study. That is nicheincontrol.com/case study. Hey everyone, this is Jesse P. Gilmore, founder of Niche in Control and creator of Leverage for Growth. Welcome to the Leverage for Growth podcast and the Agency Leverage Edition. Today I'm here with Cam Beaudoin, the founder of The Frequent Speaker, an expert in crafting compelling demo reels for professional speakers, specializing in serving mid-tier speakers with $5,000 to $15,000 gigs on a mission to help them elevate their brand and secure higher paying engagements. Thanks for coming to our show today, Cam.
Jesse, I am so happy to be here. It's just great to talk to you about all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's start from the way beginning. And can you tell us a little bit about the history and background of your agency?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to go back I was a professional speaker for 7 years on disability inclusion and accessibility. And I was a tech guy. I was always the guy at IBM who's like, who wants to do demo day right now for the clients? And I was a developer. So you can imagine a group of nerds kind of sitting together and there's no one who raised their hand. And there I was, me, I'll do demo day. I'll do that. So it was like very natural for me to go off and learn how to do public speaking. And for some reason, I thought during the pandemic that the best thing to do is learn how to get on more stages and craft a speech, which, I don't know. I guess just because we had a whole bunch of time, right? It was like gardening and speech crafting is what I really found. But while I was there, I was in a cohort full of other speakers. And what I found is that everyone got like really hung up around video and video production and storytelling, and not so much on their own. Like they could get up on stage and do it, but there's these certain speaker assets that you need to have a good speaking business. A website's one, a good social profile is the other one. And that last little bit, a speaker demo reel, which is kind of like a pre-pitch to an event planner who wants to hire you, so you can demonstrate how you are on stage. And it was this painful process of, I would reach out to an editor and they're like, yeah, go through all your content and then go figure out like your best parts and I'd pick music. And I'm like, I don't have 40 hours to watch all my own stuff. And I think I can go solve this problem. So that was it. And I said, I'm going to go find a team and I'm sure there's got to be some people out there that I can pay to watch content and find good parts in a speaker's keynote. And I did. And I found that. And I had friends come to me and say, hey, Cam, can you do that for our reel? You just did it for yourself. Can you do it for ours? I'm like, sure, I could do that. And then after you get 2, 3, 4 people asking that same question, you kind of think, maybe I've got a business here. Like maybe I've got something that people want to pay for and go figure out. So that's when I started taking money for it and started going to do outreach and pitches. And, ever since then, it's just kind of snowballed into something where, really focusing on mission-driven speakers, people who have like a true calling to go and change people in audiences. How do I go and help them elevate their status and go and reach more audiences? And that's kind of the true, like deeper reason to do this.
Beautiful, man. I love when you're doing something where you see a need and you start doing it for yourself, and then you realize that you can do it for other people, and the demand starts coming. It's one of the most beautiful things about entrepreneurship that I think certain entrepreneurs that kind of like fall into that are able to kind of tap into market demand, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think it's something that I think it's a very common entrepreneur story. But whenever I think of like, what's your origin story? I'm always like, I don't really have this. There wasn't this big calling. I never worked in movies, or sometimes we have that imposter syndrome. I look at some of the other players in the industry, and some of these guys, they've got like 20 years in the movie industry and doing what I'm doing now. It's like, oh my God. But I guess I have a sales and marketing background as well. So that's what we're doing here. I'm just helping out people with their sales and marketing techniques. So there is something there, but it's not this huge pedigree of all this, ages in the movie industry. So, but you kind of got to, that's what entrepreneurship is, right? Like finding problems, solving problems, finding more problems, solving more problems. That's kind of what we're all doing here.
And that is super important. Sometimes when people are trying to figure out, and probably one of the topics I'm going to be asking you about is based around the niche, and so, but one of the most important things that people can do is, especially agency owners, is figure out kind of what is that kind of core service or core offering or thing that you can double down on and get great results for. And the results actually speak more than the background, the experience, and the 20 years in a movie industry or whatever else. And so I think solving that problem better than anybody else can is one of the best ways of actually growing a business.
Yeah, totally. And I can't wait. You just mentioned something there, just going out and asking your clients afterwards, when you start getting a couple dozen results out there, that you can start getting even deeper into your niche and saying, okay, like who are the best of the best? Like what can I do to find and mine and attract those types of clients even more? Because I think we've all accepted people in our agencies who maybe don't fit the perfect mold, and we take them in just because we either need the money or we need the experience or we need, like, I can't say no to anybody because then I don't want to push away an opportunity, or we oversell something to somebody else. I think that's kind of a very common thing in the agency. I mean, all business, right? Like we all want to, we're trying to serve, help our families and grow grow opportunities, but by really like honing in on who are my best clients at one point, where do I find more people like that? That is like such a wonderful exercise to do. I encourage all agency owners to do that at some point.
It reminds me of my masterclass by the end of this month, but all based around that. And I think actually the most interesting thing about your agency, and part of the reason why we even started a conversation on LinkedIn, was the fact that you're very specialized. If you think about a lot of other agencies, they kind of serve small businesses, or they do full service digital marketing. They have so many different things that make it kind of complex and harder to scale. But what you've done is actually you've narrowed it down to not only, like, you don't just serve everybody, you serve speakers. And you not only serve speakers in, like a 15 million different ways, it's very specifically that demo reel, and I think, can you walk through, like, most likely you've had opportunities to expand your services beyond that or serve people that are not that. And I think that I'd be really interested in diving into that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I think if I think of what kind of niche I should like boil this all down to, right? Like there's like video agencies, right? Anyone who does anything with video, and I don't have anyone on staff. I don't have a videographer on staff. I do everything remotely, and kind of like whittling it all the way down to, no, I don't do video. I don't do video for businesses. I do video for like professional speakers who are kind of in that solopreneur entrepreneur stage, which if I look at myself, that's very much still in the growth phase that I'm going through. So I'm very attuned to the pain points that speakers on solopreneurs have at that level. So it's really easy to talk to people, especially speakers, especially because I went through it. Like getting on stages is sometimes not easy, or you take a whole bunch of free gigs at the very beginning. So being able to speak that language is very easy for me. Now, I've been offered or asked before if I want to do some like corporate intro videos. And I think that it's really easy to say yes, yes, yes to everything. And then you dilute your core focus. You kind of want to be able to tune your message, whether it's on social media, whether you do ads. You kind of want to be able to tune your message to one very specific audience. And I think, like, for going back, for example, if I was to do a corporate video for a CEO, or like a startup video, I've been asked to do that as well. It's really easy, like I said, to say, sure, it's the same process, right? Like learn about the business, learn about the pain points that they have, and give you, return a video to them that speaks very much to that. But then what do I speak on socials, right? Like that's the next step that kind of goes to my mind. It would be easy to take that money and learn a whole bunch of stuff and then spend a bunch of time kind of delving into that. But then, am I going to be known? What am I going to be known for? Well, let me go back a little bit. When I was a speaker, I was known as the accessibility guy. Like in my circles, I was known as the guy who talked about this one very specific topic. I think it's very powerful to be able to walk into a room and, virtual room or whatever like that. And like, oh, you are this X guy or you are X girl, right? Being identified in that one liner. I think that's a very powerful statement that's very beneficial to anybody.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had a lot of mentors in my time, and I have two other coaches, and one of the things that one of my mentors had said is, like, you can actually get to 10 million by serving one type of person with a painful $10,000 or more painful problem, and one traffic source. and and I think that a lot of times people think that they have to just do more services, more people, more whatever, more platforms, more whatever, in order for them to grow. And it's actually not true. And I think a lot of what you're getting at, and for your own story, what's really cool is that you're kind of like one or two steps ahead of the people that you're helping with the demo reels and the keynotes and stuff like that. And you're able to speak the language, which is a huge part of being in a niche and being able to actually be like an insider. And I love the idea of going into a room and people are like, "That's that guy," That's
Right, right. And you're touching on something that I even have to. I find myself coaching a lot of my clients as well. Like as soon as they come into my world, a speaker will come in and I say, "Okay, what do you speak about?" And they're like, "Listen, women are like women's rights. Let me go and talk about that." But I also speak about this other issue, and also I speak about burnout in for women in tech careers. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. And so I think it's like we also have to learn to practice what we preach. I know a lot of social media managers out there who don't even have a working social profile. What's that expression? The cobbler has no shoes, right? It's really sometimes hard to self-identify and say, okay, well, I'm giving this advice to other people. I should really be taking it myself too. So it's a constant reminder. I've gone out and said, like, I'm going to go and build a whatever this other service. Actually, social media management was something I tried to dip my toe into at one point, because how easy would it be as people who for myself who creates video, I've got all this library of content for the speaker anyways. It's a dovetail into a new opportunity into going and working as a social media manager. But then as soon as you start to work through that exercise, and it seems so easy at the get-go, right? Oh, I just hire a few people, and then they know how to post on Instagram, and I got to find someone for TikTok too, and there's got to be a YouTube specialist in there too. And man, LinkedIn is its own beast as well. Okay, so hire 4 people and then just pay a bunch of money to Buffer or Hootsuite. Or like when you start running down that mental exercise, you're like, dang, that's like 6 people I've got to go and find and hire and train and then get them to work. And we got to respect people's brands. In fact, that's something I find is very difficult for a lot of people, is that they don't know how to treat other people's brands like this holy grail, like this a thing to respect. Because a lot of speakers, all they have is their brand, right? They don't really build any assets that are hard assets that, all they have is to walk up on stage and this is X person. This is that one person up on stage. So I think it's just really important to remember that, staying in this lane, while this may not be forever, it is the main focus right now until it can be productized and repeated a billion times on almost autopilot. So, I fully believe in drinking your own Kool-Aid. If you're going to go out there and say to stick to a niche, then you kind of got to do it yourself too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think in that same scenario, so I love the fact that you're actually using your own life experience and deciding, do I want to expand it? And if I did expand it, what was all the things that actually have to happen? I think one of the things that we help clients with, if they do kind of niche down, is to think about expansion in maybe a different way, or you're extremely focused and then you have either strategic or referral partners that you can refer work to and get a commission based around that, but you actually don't own the process. So in that same case, you'd find a social media agency that specializes in speakers, and basically can take your demo reels and create a great result for it. And then you get a referral based around that kind of a relationship. So there's a lot of different ways of being able to grow. And I think that sometimes we get so pigeonholed into like thinking that we have to do everything, when in actuality it just dilutes the actual scale. And you find it in your profit margins, which is another piece of looking at the numbers and determining what the best thing is. But
yeah, and I think personally that comes down to me a little bit of ego, and I think as guys we have it quite a bit. I've got to do everything, and I'm this provider, and I can do all this kind of stuff all by myself. Another one is if you come from the corporate world, I think that you are trained to be like that, right? You have a specialty, and I was very like climb the corporate ladder kind of guy. So the best way to climb the corporate ladder is to take on more, right? Like being that pivot point that everyone has to rely on, and saying like, Cam's my guy at doing this kind of stuff because he can do coding, he can do presentations, he can go and speak to the client. Let's put him into like a lead consultant role instead of just a developer role. So great, go do that. And then after that, it's like, well, let me go and do more. And like forming partnerships and relationships with other people, you kind of only learn that while doing entrepreneurship. But you are the filter and you are the gate. I work with some people who, I put them through the ringer first. I wouldn't recommend anyone unless I've used their services or I've been on their podcast or really dug deep, because then all of a sudden that becomes a reflection of you as well, right? So you only want to refer people to your clients that you have a really, really strong working relationship with, or you really trust that they can help your client out, right? Because you don't want anything bad to come back to you.
Yeah, totally. And it goes back to what you said about brand reputation, and it's like a thing to be protected. Same exact thing goes in that scenario as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So Cam, so during the period of time where you launched Frequent Speaker and you doubled down during the pandemic, and so has the Frequent Speaker been in business for about 4 years or so, or how long has it been in business?
I actually officially pivoted to this business because I was dabbling my feet into it probably for most of 2022. 2023, I went all in on this. So a little over a year now is kind of when I've really started, like, this is my only focus now, which is, again, going back to that, like, what's our focus? And it could be in a bunch of stuff, but this was the focus for the past year and a half.
Sweet. Awesome. What have you learned in that first year and a half, that if someone was on a similar journey, or agency owners that are kind of listening to this, maybe they haven't done the hyper focus, so you could talk about that, or even just like as they're kind of doubling down on this niche and deciding not to do additional services, but what are some of those things that you kind of wish you would have known in the way beginning to maybe save you time, energy, or money?
I think I probably would have put a lot more focus on really understanding the problems that a speaker has at the very beginning. Like, I would have spent way more, like I would have spent an inordinate amount of time just interviewing way more speakers and understanding like where their pain points are. It probably would have helped me a lot with the advertising and the like the way I've positioned offers and things like that at the very beginning. Probably would have strengthened my offer now. I'm still going through that process now, but when you're not directly selling the thing that you're creating, right? It's a very easy thing. If I was an employee of a Fortune 500 company, just say like, "Hey, speaker, I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'm thinking of doing this." That's a very easy conversation because there's almost like there's no pressure for them to think that you're going to go and sell them something. Because as soon as you put on your profile, you're on LinkedIn that you are a business owner, all of a sudden, like, people's guards go up and they say, "Okay, you're going to sell me something," right? Like, I think we've all been there where you get pitch slapped. I love that expression on LinkedIn. You get pitch slapped right away, and we're all expecting that now. So the easiest way to, or the thing that I would have gone back and just thought of a little bit more, would have been just take a bit more time. There was no rush to kind of get into this. I was rushed to quit my job and go and become an entrepreneur. I felt it was way too long. I was waiting. So I probably just would have slowed down a little bit, got really, really good data, and then been able to, gone back to everyone I've interviewed or everyone I've researched before and say, "Hey, you gave me information. Here's what I would like to solve for you. Can I go and solve that?" And I probably could have bounced my prices much higher at the beginning as well, right from the get-go.
That's such a crucial part. I think there are certain kind of foundational steps that a lot of people kind of skip. Either they know it's important, but they just don't do it, or it's not urgent and stuff. And so I think anybody that's listening that hasn't gone through that kind of like interview process with people, either clients or in the market of your ICP, and just asking them questions about pain problems and what have they tried before? Why do they think it's not working? That kind of stuff is really, really, really foundational to effective messaging and also that scalable offer. I think one of the greatest things about your business, I'm kind of like geeking out because I'm like, sweet, you specialize in who you serve and also what you do, which is hyper personalization, which I could, like, you're talking about the geeks and the tech people earlier. Like, I'm just thinking of like, I just geek out about niches, but I think you did a really, really good job at positioning it so far. And then the understanding that you can still continually improve it. You can still do more market research. You can still do that to even refine it even more.
Yeah. The word research, I wanted to be super clear because I tell this to all my speakers as well. It's that research doesn't mean sitting at your computer for 4 hours and doing a bunch of like SEO tag word or going on social media and looking stuff up. That has a place, but you got to cap that at like 2 hours max, because you're going to, at a certain point, you're just not going to learn anything more until you pick up the phone and you actually go and call somebody and say, "Hi, I'd love to talk to you." And they're going to say no, and you're going to get 100 rejections. And that's kind of part of what this is all about, right? That's kind of what this journey is all about. You gotta get to the point where you're like, like, hi, I need to talk to you. Like, I need to talk to somebody really and understand it, because I've even heard some of the like great marketers out there. I'll use Russell Brunson as an example. He still says that his funnels fail the first time. Why? Because it's the first time. You got to get out there and just like kind of like put it through the ringer and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of like get real feedback from the real market out there to understand what people really want and if it's actually useful and all that kind of good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. We could probably talk about that one topic for another hour, but yeah, let's look to the future, man. So you've been in business, and now you're kind of doubling down on this very specific business and what your value is. So where do you see yourself or see the business in 1 to 3 years? What gets you excited, and what are you looking forward to?
What really is getting me excited now is actually creating my own funnel. And so one of the big things that I hear from a lot of speakers is I don't have enough content, or I don't have enough stages, or things like that. So I'll get on calls, and what's happening recently is, since I've done such a big push on ads, I am getting a higher volume of inbound calls, right? Like, which is great. Like, we all say we want inbound calls, but what ends up happening is that I get a bunch of people online who are just at the beginning of the speaking career, and they've heard they need this thing, like a demo reel, like, oh, I know I need this in the future, but like, I just want information now. And even if going back to what we said before, even if I wanted to sell them, I probably could push or encourage people to get that done now. It doesn't serve them because they don't have the right type of content. And so even if they were to spend all this money for me to custom craft them something, it's going to look like garbage because they've recorded a bunch of content from their like iPhone in the back of the room, kind of thing like that. And then what they really need is true stage performances. They need to go and get on a stage, hire a videographer, and get out there and do that. And so what I'm focused on right now is I said to myself, after getting 30 calls like this, like, what can I offer speakers like that would create those opportunities? Because I think that going back a second, the whole idea of sales and marketing is everybody has problems. So what's the next problem that you can help solve, and what's the problem before? Because once you've solved that one problem, you got to kind of look a few steps ahead and a few steps back and identify, well, what do people need in those ranks there as well, and how can you price that in? So my next journey is actually just creating a full course on get on stage. Because what's the next natural thing that happens once people get on stages and they get the requirements to be able to pay for a demo reel, would be to call Cam, right? Like, that's the next natural thing. And so while I'm offering a full done for you, custom tailored service, very white glove to create that demo reel, because I want to create something that's good for 1 or 2 years usually, this next offer will just be a course, right? Like, it's a very simple get through it. Let's join a group class and group coaching. And that gets me super excited because, again, we were talking about this just before it started. Everyone wants the juice without the squeeze. Like, they don't realize that to get on stages, you got to do cold calls, or you got to go and reach out to people. You got to do warm. A lot of speakers have never been in that world before. They're working a full-time job, and they think just because they've done lunch and learns at their business, or whether they have a lived experience, that people are just going to pay them for that experience. And the reality is, it's not like that. You got to get out there and get market feedback. You got to get out there and get on stages and go and learn what it's like to have a microphone in your hand and it not work, or your slides not, like, without that real life experience, you're never going to get to the next level or the next stage, the next step. So kind of helping, how do I serve those clients as well? So just by nature, the next step for them is like, great, now I have some stages, now I know experience, now I'm getting paid for it, I want to move to the next level. Hey, Cam already offered his demo reel services, let me just go with him. That's where my big focus is now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned Russell Brunson earlier, and I know that he talks about a value ladder. Is that a similar concept that before and after?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. So I'm big on that. So if I had to paint up my value ladder, lots of free content out there, free community that people can join and chat about their speaking experiences, things like that. Then what happens right after that would be that course. Then after that's the demo reel. Then after that, I don't know. It could be something even as how do we go and create opportunities where speakers can just go on stages, like just simply just pay and get on a stage and share your knowledge and make it a whole branding event, things like that. This is the fun of entrepreneurship to me. Is like, what can we just create out of thin air? Like, we can create value out of thin air and just go and do. And there's nothing really stopping us other than our imagination and kind of like time. And so you kind of have to rein things in to make sure that you're not, I mean, I want to go get a circus and have people like, we can invent whatever we want, but it's super fun just to be like, okay, how do I create this whole, I've never made an event before. I've never filled seats in, I've never put butts in seats before, what's involved in that? Like, I have no idea. And wouldn't it be cool to have a conversation in a year or so and think of what that could possibly be? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. I'm excited for you.
Thanks. Thanks, two of us.
Well, very cool. Well, what's the best way if anybody's listening to this and wants to get in touch with you or learn more about the community you're building and stuff like that? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Reach out. I'm super active on LinkedIn and Instagram. Those are my two kind of places. And yeah, I know it's kind of diluting the channels, but I think there's definitely, anyone who's only on LinkedIn, you forget that there's like 2 orders of magnitude more on Instagram. And it's that was a huge wake up realization for me. So reach out on either of those. I'm there. The frequent speaker is where you'll find me there.
Awesome. And for anybody that's listening, I'll include links to Cam and the frequent speaker in the show notes. And Cam, I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Agency owners, if you want to transform your agency to sustain and grow without your direct involvement, where you can stop working in the business and start working on the business, where you can free up your time, delegate work more effectively, price and position your services to finally get paid for what you're worth, and have the team run the day-to-day, go to nicheincontrol.com/case study now to learn more about leverage for growth. And also to book a free strategy session with us. We'll look at your systems, determine exactly what you need to do in order for you to scale this year, and to create a strategic plan so that you can live the life of entrepreneurship you've always dreamed about. Go to nicheincontrol.com/case study now.